David slumped into his living room chair in a daze. The last couple of hours were a complete blur. Haunting images would sporadically cross over his mind, slowly reminding him of the hell that he was leaving behind. He felt in his pocket for his phone, dialed 911. There was no way that he could explain any of this. But for some reason, his first reaction was to call. Maybe they could just go there and confirm that this was a normal house, nothing more. That could put his mind at ease. And he could just be at home, live a normal life with... He bolted to his feet again. He ran all over the house, looking in every room, every direction. David grabbed the phone off the charger and dialed Maggie's number. Come on, pick up. Pick up.
Hey, this is Maggie. I'm sorry I missed your call. Leave me a message after the beep and never return to the NoEnd House.
He flung the front door open, he slammed the door to his car shut, and David tore back to the house. Maggie was in there. As he drove, he flipped through his phone, looking for the old text that he knew that he sent. There was nothing. There were texts to Maggie from Maggie, but all of them were blank. David swore under his breath as he reached the house. He stumbled out of the car and fell to the dirt road. Picking himself up, he ran with all of his might and slammed his body against the front door of the house. He tried the knob. No use. With both of his fists, he pounded on the door, screaming Maggie's name. Nothing. His fists were red and burning. David slumped to his knees, palms dragging down the door as he went. After a few moments, David felt his eyes sting. She was in there. He knew. The woman he loved went to save him, and in doing so took his place. He had to find a way in. There had to be a way in. David got to his knees with renewed energy, but before he could move, he felt his phone vibrate. It was a text, and looking at the name gave him relief. Peter. It was Peter Terry. Maybe he could help.
Hey, Dave. You alright? Haven't heard from you in a while.
Peter! Jesus! Where are you?
I'm in the house. I went in to find you, man. I told you not to go.
It's past now. Whatever, but Peter, I need to get back in. Do you know how?
Go around back. There's an oak tree next to the house with a trapdoor at its base. Go through there. It's a service entrance.
Why the fuck would this place need a service entrance?
Just get to the tree, man. I'm trying to help you.
David didn't have time to ask anything more. He took off, running down the porch to the other end of the house, leaping over the side rail and landing in an awkward pile below. He could see the tree wasn't far, or maybe it was. It was so big that depth perception was hard to figure. And was that even there before? Yeah, he had other shit in his mind earlier, and who really takes notice of trees, but this one... It was massive. He ran up to the side, and there it was. A small wooden door on the ground below it, like one of those old cellar doors that houses used to have leading into their basements. David looked around him and behind his back. He wasn't even sure why he did. He just had one of those feelings. Shaking it off, David yanked on the handle. The rusted hinges groaned in protest, but after a few hard pulls, it gave way and revealed the darkness below. With a heavy sigh, David slowly made his way down. Jesus, it was dark. But soon, David was hit with a smell that put the darkness to shame. It was like burnt hair covered in shit and mold. He spit onto the ground. He could fucking taste the smell. David got his phone out and turned it to the highest brightness. It wasn't much, but he was at least able to see the surrounding walls. Looking around in the dim light, David noticed something strange. He hadn't been in too many underground tunnels, to be fair, but he assumed the walls would be dirt, mud, or something like that. He couldn't quite see what it was, but it wasn't anything man-made, or that could pass as dirt. Curiosity got the better of him, and with his phone outstretched, he went up to one of the side walls. He had to get with the phone almost touching the wall, David's eyes grew wide. No. It can't be. With his other hand, David prodded at the wall. It gave a bit, but it was solid. He was reminded of the smell, and now knew its origin. This was flesh. The walls of the tunnel were covered in burnt skin. David moved the phone a few inches and followed the light. He saw areas where different skins were sewn together with some rough metallic string, almost like copper wire. One section made his stomach turn over on itself. It was a face. A human face, stretched out, elongated, with the eyes and mouth sewn shut. The nose was removed, and the hole that was left behind was sutured as well. Maybe it was the smell, or the sight of this, but David couldn't take it. With a lurch, he turned to the side and vomited on the ground. The tunnel went on for ages. What was most likely only a few minutes felt like hours to David. He had to get inside and save Maggie, but nothing else mattered. Peter was his friend, but if it came down to it, Maggie was the first to save. Peter could rot there if need be. Then again, he was the one person that told him about this path. David's mental debate ceased after something from behind him touched him. With a start, he spun around and was face to face with nothing. Confused, David brought his phone up and reached out into the blackness. Nothing. Nothing except a wall. A wall that wasn't there 2 minutes ago. Rank and covered in flesh. David screamed and pounded on the wall in front of him, and it gave only slightly. The wall was shrinking, trapping him in as he walked. It hit David like a train. He was in the service tunnel, but he was in the house. It had him. There was no going back. The house was pulling him in. And it was glad to see him. Earlier, this may have fazed David more than it did at this moment. There, in that hell tunnel, David barely flinched. He had seen what this place was capable of, and he had witnessed some of the most sanity-testing experiences imaginable. He had seen it all. Or at least he thought. As he walked, David could now hear the tunnel shrinking in from behind. The grinding, sloshing noise of flesh twisting on itself to seal him in made him feel sick again. But he only sped up his walking, and after a moment he heard something that made him stop dead in his tracks. It was a voice. The girl's. It wasn't Maggie's.
Why did you come back? Why? Why did you come back?
David stood there, frozen. The voice seemed to come from everywhere. The screaming was getting closer, and David braced himself against the back wall.
Why, David? Why did you come back?
Soon he heard the thudding footsteps of someone running towards him, and then he saw her. A girl, no older than 13, running up to him, yelling her constant question, and David was too stunned to react short of just standing there. The girl ran up to him, began pounding on his chest with her fists, hard at first, but then weakening, like a spoiled girl hitting the ground when she doesn't get her way.
Why, David? Why did you come back?
The girl slumped to her knees in front of him. With one final hit against his leg, David stood there in shock, hands slightly raised and tense. His fears began to ease out of him. She clearly wasn't a threat and didn't seem to be a ghost or anything. Hey, he began, it's all right. Who are you? The girl jumped slightly at his words. Slowly, she lifted her head to look at David. His heart sank as he saw her face. For sure, it wasn't Maggie. It wasn't anyone he knew.
You came back to save us, didn't you?